My guest today is a legend in the world of chess and chess engines. His name is Larry Kaufman. He's a grandmaster and world seniors chess champion.
I've been involved with the whole idea of computers giving odds to opponents for 20 years now.
He has also worked on developing some of the best chess engines, including Rybka and Komodo. And today he's working on the Leela odds bot, which defeats even the best grandmasters in the world, giving them extra knight, rook, or even queen.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, let's go d4. Let's play knight c3. Oh, I blundered. Oh my gosh, I blundered the game. I blundered.
Out of 80 games, the computer did not lose even one. It was 74 wins and 6 draws. Not one of the world's top 50 could win it a single time in Blitz.
Larry is also a shogi player, which is a Japanese game similar to chess. We've discussed his exciting story.
From roughly 1980 to 2000, I was considered the best non-Japanese player in the world.
At the end, we've played an exciting Blitz game. Do not miss this episode.
I wanted to second exchange, but decided it's too much. Larry, hi, thank you very much for joining me today. I think we will have a fascinating discussion of many topics, including computer chess, which you are a foremost leading expert on.
Well, nice to be on your podcast, Greg.
So let's start by discussing the recent news with Leela odds bots, because this is a topic that has been fascinating me for quite some time. For context, for listeners and viewers of the show, some of you guys might have seen even the video where, like, around a year ago, I tried playing against Stockfish down a knight, and or I was up a knight. The Stockfish was down a knight, and I managed to win rather easily because I just traded some pieces and went into an endgame, and even Stockfish cannot win an endgame down a knight. But this new bot, or a number of bots, Leela odds bots, give odds like knight odds or even rook odds to grandmasters and demolish them because they are somehow specifically trained to do that. Can you please explain how it all works, Larry, as a person who has contributed to those engines?
Yes, I'll try to explain it. I've been involved with the whole idea of computers giving odds to opponents for 20 years now. I'm the main promoter of the idea, shall we say, but it's only very recently that it came to complete success. They were already fairly good a few years ago. At that point, I was working on Komodo. I finally retired from that, but that was my program. And the Komodo chess, it got to be strong enough to it decisively defeated Hikaru Nakamura, giving him 2 pawns, and that was in rapid. But we tried knight odds with grandmasters in rapid, and we consistently scored about 33%. So basically, the Komodo was only able to, it rarely won, but it was able to get a lot of draws. So it didn't score that terribly, but it certainly came out, behind 2-1. But now with Leela, so I got involved with Leela when I heard about that they had done some things with contempt that made it likely that it would be good at odds chess. So
what is contempt? Can you please explain for the part of the audience?
Right. So when a computer uses contempt, it means that it does make some assumption that the opponent is not as good a player as it is, and it modifies its play in an appropriate way to be more likely to defeat a weaker opponent. Now, in the early days, all that meant was basically just avoiding draws, like draws by repetition. It didn't have very big consequences, but little by little, it started to have more consequences. With Komodo, we taught it that when it uses contempt, it should assume that its pieces are more valuable than the opponent's pieces, and that therefore it should avoid even trades unless there's a real need to do it. And that's why we were able to do as well as we were, the 33% at giving night odds to grandmasters. But these were just what I call par grandmasters, par meaning roughly 2,500, the rating you need to get the GM title. So if I say par grandmaster, I mean someone near 2,500. That was where it stood. But Leela did more with contempt. Leela estimates the chance of a win, draw, or loss in any position, and based on contempt, it will modify those values. So, for example, if a position is highly likely to end in a draw, that's not something you want to play against a weaker opponent. So basically, contempt caused Leela to avoid positions that it felt had a drawish tendency. And especially when you're down a piece, a drawish tendency pretty much just means that there's no chance of winning, that only you could hope for a draw. So instead of going for positions where the best it could get was a draw, it would go for positions where it could actually win. So that was the way things stood like a year ago. And that produced better results than we had gotten previously. That got it to the point where it was generally winning rapid games against par grandmasters at night odds. I'm talking about, but not strong grandmasters. Not like strong meaning over 2,600, let's say.
Okay.
So that's where things stood a year ago. And then over the summer, we started to try out the idea of actually training a neural network specifically to play the odds. So the way we did this was first of all, there exists some nets for Leela that are human simulations. Okay, for example, they have bots you can play called Maya 1900, Maya 1500, Maya 1100. So those are supposed to be simulations of how a human with those elite chess ratings would play. We made some bots that were simulations of stronger players like grandmasters playing rapid, and we used those as our opponents. So we trained the net for Leela to do as well as it could, giving night odds to another version of Leela that was supposed to be a simulation of a human grandmaster playing rapid. Okay, now it's not perfect, of course. The simulations are, they're not. I think you could probably figure out which was the computer and which was the human if you looked at a lot of games, but they're fairly good. I mean, they're much better simulations than just picking an old program that was around grandmaster strength. It's not. They're much more like a human than those were. So that's the way we did it. We trained it with about 120,000 games initially. We started with a regular Leela net, one of the best ones. It would modify its play to try to win as much as it could, giving night odds to this simulated human grandmaster. And that worked very well. We were rather surprised how well it worked. Immediately after we did it, the results of the bots jumped by something like a class, like 200 elo. Then we kept refining it, and then we after we did the night odds net, a little later we did one that also included rook odds, so we had a net for that. A different person, but part of the Leela team trained a net for queen odds, basically the same technique. And so we had the full family night odds, rook odds, and queen odds. We also had a queen for knight bot to kind of fill the gap between rook and queen, but that's a pretty big gap. So we had those four bots that were all trained to do as well as possible against humans, or strong human players, at least simulated strong human players, I should say. And then and we kept moving forward. Then, I mean, aside from minor improvements like just getting the parameters right, that was kind of my big job on the project, was getting the numerical parameters right. Like you have to there's several different numbers associated with each version. And the idea is you have to figure out what number will produce the best results against human grandmasters or whatever level you're targeting. And so that was my main job on the project, was that. Plus, also I had to write an opening book for it, because you got to have variety. Otherwise, people just memorize their wins and repeat them. Mm-hmm. And if you just let the computer do its own variety, you can. There's a way to do it. It's called temperature. So we could just let the computer do its own variety, but for technical reasons, that produces a lot of bad moves, basically. So doing an opening book was much better. It made it possible to have variety without having the bad moves.
Actually, I want to say, sorry for interrupting you. I wanted just to say, great job on the openings, because these bots play some very creative stuff. They like, for example, advancing the G pawn early on. And there are some like hybrid openings that like are similar to normal chess, for example, closed Sicilian, but without the B1 knight. This is very, very impressive stuff. So you came up with lots of different openings for those engines.
Right. Now, of course, I use Leela to help, judge which ones would actually be effective. It isn't just, I didn't just pick them out of thin air. So it is heavily based on what Leela likes, but I had to make practical decisions as to which lines would actually be effective against humans. At least I have some idea which lines would bother me, for example, and also I was able to look at the actual results against humans and see which openings actually scored well, and so I'd modify the probability of picking any line based on how it's doing, and I do that every few days. So if a certain line is not scoring well, I just cut back on how often it plays it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So this is a true collaboration between a man and machine, not just the neural network playing. Okay, and as I see, these bots keep improving. So recently, you mentioned that the odds bot defeated a grandmaster like 32.5 or something like that. Can you please tell me about it?
Yeah. So, well, regarding the improvement, there was a major improvement a couple months ago because we solved a really big problem. We had to set it to play extremely fast, like bullet chess, because if it took more time, it would just see more resources for the opponent, and it would just start to think, oh, this is hopeless. I might as well resign, So we had it set to play super fast, but of course that means it's missing a lot of things itself. So anyway, one of our members of our team came up with an idea called search contempt, which makes it basically cut the search short for the opponent, but not for itself. For any given handicap, we make an assumption as to how well the opponent is likely to play, and we're assuming that we're playing an opponent that is of the right strength to score 50% at that handicap. That's that's actually not realistic, because most of the people who play it are way too weak for that. But our target is an opponent that's a 50-50 opponent at that handicap. With this search contempt, now we can have it take more time without hurting us play, and with actually helping us play. So that was another big advance. That was like another class on top of the other class. So we've had just enormous advances in less than a year. It's many hundreds of elo. So the way things stand right now, just to give you like a quick summary of the achievements, with night odds, if you're talking about Blitz, and which usually means 3 minutes plus 2 seconds, for most people, I know 3 minute with no increment is popular on the internet, but when you play computers, most people know that they need an increment, or else they'll flag. So 3 plus 2 is normal Blitz for playing a computer. And the results since the last upgrade that I just talked about are really remarkable. There were about 80 games played against grandmasters who were in the world top 50 on the FIDE list. So basically either above 2,700 or at least pretty close to it. And the score was, out of 80 games, the computer did not lose even one. It was 74 wins and 6 draws. Not one of the world's top 50 could win it a single time in Blitz. And we're talking about, for example, Nepo was one of the players, and Dubov. I mean, it's just amazing. The one who played the most was Serrana of the top 50. He played it 50 times. He got 3 draws. So now in Rapid, it's a little bit less lopsided. I mean, occasionally somebody can beat it in a Rapid game, but it's still pretty overwhelming. Now we haven't yet had a really top grandmaster play a major Rapid match with it. The closest we've had was a Wander Liang, who's like world number 42 or 43. And he played it a lot of Rapid games, and I think his overall score is like 40% or something like that.
I've watched that match. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we did play in January, and this was even before the last advance that I just talked about, the search condemn. But in January, we played a match with Grandmaster Joel Benjamin. Did you hear about that one? Or
I think it was in slow chess, right? In classical, right?
Right. Yes, that was it was 1 hour plus a 30-second increment. So it's considered, it's a little fast for classical, but it's in the classical range. We played it. We played 8 games with him, and he won the match, but only by a point. It was 2-1 with 5 draws. So a very competitive match, even at a classical time control. And Joel is the most experienced grandmaster of all in terms of playing computers with odds. He's been playing against top computers for 30 years now. So, of course, he's 60 years old. He's not what you'd call a strong grandmaster anymore, but he's certainly still grandmaster level. So
this is very impressive.
So that's where things stand with night odds. I think if we were to play a match now at a slow time control, I think we would be a good match for somebody around 2,600 FIDE at something like 1 hour plus 30 seconds. I think that would be a good match. So then the next category is Rook odds. Rook odds is a somewhat larger handicap. It's the computer isn't quite as overwhelming in general, but it's still pretty overwhelming. It played 30 games with Grandmaster Danny Gormally in I think it was slow blitz, 5 minute plus 3 second. Kind of about the upper end of what's called Blitz. Computer won 29-1. That's the match you were talking about.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. Now, of course, I'm sure he would score better, in Rapid, and I'm sure, a top level grandmaster would also score better. So I'm not saying that if we were to play Blitz against the world top 50, I don't think we would be overwhelming the way it was with night odds, but my best guess is that even at 3+2 Blitz, I think it would probably beat almost anyone in the world. Maybe not Magnus and Hikaru, but probably almost anybody else.
Why not Magnus and Hikaru, by the way? Because Hikaru recently played, I think, Bullet against the Queen odds bot and lost the match. But Bullet is not Blitz, obviously.
Well, he didn't lose the match. He got 3 out of 5, but Bullet at Queen odds is maybe about the same as 3+2 Blitz at Rook odds. I mean, with 3+2, you play an awful lot better than with 1 minute and no increment. There's no comparison between those time controls. But anyway, that would be in my opinion, the most interesting possible match would be Hikaru or Magnus at Rook odds 3+2. I don't know who to bet on.
That's definitely a match we need to see.
Yeah. And then now the queen odds, in some ways, that's even the most amazing because queen odds is just ridiculous. I mean, nobody ever, a few years ago, we didn't even talk about computers playing queen odds. It just was like a joke. We were thinking, well, okay, maybe somebody who just learned the moves would lose, or maybe somebody with a 1200 rating, the computer might beat it at queen odds. But I mean, not, we never thought of it as a serious handicap for, a strong player. The results are pretty amazing there. I mean, in pure bullet chess, Hikaru is the only person in the world with a plus score. And I'm talking about, the number of people who play that have Lee chess ratings way over 3,000 is a big number. A lot of people, I mean, for example, Wei Yi played it, and Ding Liren played it. So, we're talking about some very good players. Hikaru is the only one who has a plus score, and even his plus score is an asterisk to it because he got 3 out of 5, but he took white 3 of the 5 games. And with odd play, you're really not supposed to. The computer is supposed to get white unless the handicap is specified as and move. Like if you say rook and move, it means that the computer plays black. But if you just say rook odds, it means the computer plays white. Hikaru only played at 2 games at true queen odds, and it was 1-1. But no one else in the world has better than 35% against it in any large number of bullet games. But of course, that's bullet chess. Bullet chess is you're going to flag or give away everything. So what's much more interesting is how is it done in Blitz? And at 3 minutes plus 2 second Blitz, the short answer is that the break even rating, it seems to be close to 2,400 FIDE. Like people, like most FMs have a tough time with it. Most IMs, they can do all right usually. But as far as grandmasters, 2 of the grandmasters that have low ratings, because they're getting older, not like my age, but getting like 50ish. 2 of them have minus scores at 3+2 Blitz. But all the grandmasters above 2,400 have a plus score.
Yes, this is fascinating. I can tell from my experience. I've played one rapid game against the Queen Odds bot, and I managed to win, but it was not easy at all. and I'm like 2,300 on chess.com in Blitz and 2,000 FIDE. And with the Rook odds, I played 3 games. The video is on this channel. The video of the games. I came close in a couple of games to winning, but I still lost all 3. So this was such a humiliating experience. And that they just keep getting better. So in like several months, they might even be stronger than now, right?
We certainly hope so. We don't know how much stronger, but they should be stronger. Yes,
that is really fascinating. Are there any strategies to play against these bots that are effective? You mentioned Grandmaster Benjamin being like used to playing computers at odds, and I remember that some players who used to play computers a lot, such as Hikaru, for example, used to come up with strategies to play against computers. For example, the famous game of Hikaru versus Rybka, another engine that you worked on. You definitely know of this story, and there is a separate video on this channel on this game, 300 moves, and Hikaru managed to trick the engine and beat it. So are there any strategies currently available to beat those bots with a higher probability than people have without those strategies?
Well, so it's interesting. So in the old days, everybody said, well, the way to beat computer is play a really close position, and that's what Hikaru did in the game you're referring to against Rybka back around 2010 or whenever it was, and that used to work fairly well against computers. I mean, sometimes relatively weak players would even beat a top computer by keep locking up the position and waiting for it to go crazy, basically trying to win. But since the advent of the neural networks, that doesn't really work anymore. They play closed positions well too. Now, in principle, the human should do better in a closed position because if it's open, you have to calculate stuff, and you can't calculate as well as the computer. So you should want closed positions. But the problem is with odds chess, the exact opposite applies, is that your main goal is to trade pieces, and you can't achieve trades in a closed position. You need to open position to achieve the trades. So the two things are in conflict with each other. Do you play to your strength, or do you play to what the position calls for? I think the general opinion is that you probably, at least if you want to win, you probably do better to open the position and go for the trades. Playing for a very closed position tends to be a good strategy if you only want to get a draw, but it doesn't work all the time. And I mean, if you actually want to win a match, you're not going to win a match by playing for a draw every time. With closed positions, what often happens with odds is that it just gets blocked up to the point where the human can't see a sensible way to make progress. He'd have to start giving things away to achieve trades, and he'll usually just end up repeating and calling it a draw. So unless your goal is just to make a draw, you need to open the position and try to trade pieces. But of course, the computer his main thing it learned from its training is don't let that happen. So it hates to trade. So this is the way it's supposed to be. I mean, if you look at the games where Paul Morphy was giving night odds to the good players of his time, they would try to trade, and he would try not to let them trade. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. So it's really, the computer is basically playing like a much upgraded version of Paul Morphy. And just like Morphy was able to give night odds to any American player of his day, now the computer is at least in Blitz, is able to give night odds to any human player in the world. Well, as far as what strategies work, besides the obvious thing of going for exchanges, you have to learn how much you can give back. Like, I'm fairly good at playing it with queen odds. I mean, I'm at my age, I'm 77. I can't really play really fast chess anymore, but I can play pretty well with like 10 minutes or so. So at rapid level or slow blitz levels, I can generally beat it at queen odds by just I know how much I can afford to give back. Like, I will generally trade a queen for a rook and a minor piece if I can, because I'm giving up a little bit, but I'm simplifying a lot. So that's a reasonable exchange. Giving a queen for two minors is a little more dicey. That would be very dependent on the position, I would say. Sometimes it might be a valid strategy, but it's surprisingly not that easy to win up two pieces, even without queens in many cases. It's hard to believe that, but it is. Open the position enough that you can achieve trades, and you have to be willing to give back, but don't be too generous. I mean, don't go giving your queen away for just a rook unless you don't have a choice. I mean, because if you're only up a rook, unless it's a real endgame, you're not going to do well. I mean, queen odds, it's not that hard if you keep in mind the points that I just made, and assuming you're, a fairly strong player. But with rook odds or knight odds, it doesn't seem to be a simple way. It's just incredibly difficult to win.
Yes, it seems so. Even Fabiano Caruana managed to just get one draw out of, like, I don't remember, 12 games or something like that.
Yeah,
so
13, yeah.
13 games. So this was just very, very surprising. I thought that such top players, why do they lose so many games? They just blunder in time pressure because the engine keeps pushing and creating some chances, or why does it happen?
Yeah, it's a mixture of different things. I mean, sometimes they actually blunder pieces, because they're short of time and there's some complications. Sometimes they make it to the ending where they still have an extra piece, but the computer maybe got a pawn or two and some positional compensation, and the resultant ending is one that they can't win in a blitz game. I mean, maybe they could win it, with 20 minutes on the clock or something, but so a lot of times, even when they get a piece up ending, it just becomes a draw because Leela just keeps posing problems that require more than 2 seconds to figure out, how do you make progress against this plan? So especially with night odds, it's even winning the end games in Blitz is very, very difficult unless if you're completely up a night for absolutely nothing, maybe you can win the ending, but usually Leela won't let you get to the ending unless you at least give it something like a pawn or, you give it some compensation. And then it becomes very hard to win without thinking. Yeah, but also Leela really tries to complicate. Like it'll try to castle opposite sides and attack if that's at all practical. The openings are designed to make it as difficult as possible for the human. So it's a little bit of everything. It's not just one thing. Like Joel Benjamin was very surprised. He said that he expected that the main issue in his match would be surviving the middle game so he could win the end games. But it turned out that there was only one game that he lost because of the middle game, and in general he kept holding on through the middle game. But by the time it got to the ending, he might still be up material, but it was no longer easy. It was too complicated, and the result was usually a draw.
Yes, I've seen some of the games from this match. It was indeed impressive. I wanted to ask, when I saw the bot, the Queen odds bot, I thought that this immediately reminded me of the famous Botez Gambit speedrun by Hikaru. He used to play on his speedrun on his stream games against other opponents online, where he gave up his queen. He started by just giving up the queen for a pawn, and then against stronger opponents, he gave a queen for a piece, sometimes like for a knight or a knight and a pawn, and he managed to get to 2,500 on chess.com in Blitz, just giving up the queen, and it was very impressive.
I think, I think it was only 2,300. I watched the thing. It was 2,300 in Blitz, and he got higher in Bullet, I know, but in Blitz it was just 2,300.
I think he stopped, first of all, he stopped when he reached the rating of Alexandra Botez, which was around there, and then later he restarted the stream and he reached 2,500, but I might be mistaken. Still, nonetheless, it's a very impressive achievement. But I'm wondering what the rating of the Queen odds bot is, because they do not have the ratings on Lichess. They just give like provisional 2,000 with a question mark, which is not the real strength. So what is the real rating of the Queen odds bot?
It seems that the Lichess Blitz rating at Queen odds would be, well, if you limit it to the games where Leela is white, which is true Queen odds, then it would be about 2,700. With black, it'd be maybe more like 2,600. It's a little bit lower if you only look at games against title players. We're not quite sure of the reason for this yet, but we've noticed that the performance ratings against title players are lower than against people with no FIDE title. But it's not drastic. But it might be like, instead of 2,700, it might be 2,550 or something like that, if you only look at games against title players.
Yeah, but we should note that this is pure Queen odds, not the Queen odds that Hikaru gave to people at the top. So yeah.
Right, and we have a Queen for a Knight bot, which would be roughly comparable to what Hikaru was doing, because he would get at least a Knight against all the better players. And the Queen for Knight bot would probably get a rating of over 3,000.
Very, very, very impressive. Yeah, and what about the Rook and Knight odds bot? What's their rating in Blitz?
Right, so the Rook odds bot, I did a calculation recently that the Rook odds bot would be around 3,100 Lichess Blitz, and the Knight odds bot would be at least somewhere in something like 3,350, which is beyond the scale. I mean, Magnus is only like 31, 33 or something like that.
Yeah, we should note here that there is a difference between ratings in Blitz on chess.com and on Lichess. And if I'm not mistaken, on chess.com, it is easier to get, for example, 3,200, 3,300. Sometimes Magnus and Hikaru reach 3,300. And on Lichess, I think in Blitz, they have around like 3,100, as you said, right?
Right, that's correct. And I even did a calculation of what their chess.com Blitz rating would be if I used the chess.com rating for the opponents instead of the Lichess rating. And that came out about for 3,200 for Rook odds and 3,550 for Knight odds, which is, and Hikaru is usually at the top at 3,300 on chess.com. So basically
Amazing.
about 250 above Hikaru, yeah.
Why didn't you make a bishop odds bot, I wonder?
Yeah, well, okay, so first of all, if you look at historical games, there's hundreds of recorded historical games at Knight odds and quite a few at Rook odd. And the grand total of historical recorded games at Bishop odds is 1. Howard Staunton played 1 game at it. That's it. And the reason that it was not played is because it changes the game a lot more than Knight odds or Rook odds changes the game, because when you take off a bishop, there's an immediate color complex, and you immediately start thinking about putting your pawns on the opposite color of the remaining bishop, and it's a lot less like a normal chess game. So if the goal of odds play is to equalize the chances while keeping the game as close to normal as you can, bishop fails that test. Now we may add it at some point as an option for, there's a bot called Leela Piece Odds. It just allows for almost any kind of weird combination of pieces. We might add it as an option for that bot at some point, but Bishop Odds is not as worthy of a bot as Knight or Rook is. It's just not a normal chess game, really.
Mm-hmm. I understood. Okay, because that was the question that that was bothering me. Okay, another question. I really like, by the way, the idea of giving piece odds even to humans. For example, I sometimes play chess against my girlfriend, who is just an amateur player, and I taught her actually several years ago to play chess, and we started by me giving her all the pieces. Like I had only pawns, but then the odds diminished. Then I started playing like down a queen and 2 rooks, then just down a queen, and now I'm playing down a queen, and usually I win, but sometimes she manages to win as well. Currently, I also have like a bonus gambit speedrun. I've started playing against like amateurs online, and I wanted to use the insights from Leela Queen Odds bot to boost my play with such material imbalance.
One of the things we learn is that if possible, try to castle on the opposite side from the opponent so you can go for an attacking race, because in an attacking race, you're a lot less likely to have the game decided in the endgame. So that's very effective strategy in general. That's why, for example, at Knight odds, you see when the computer gives the G1 knight, it very often plays the Jobava London, because that's knight B, knight B to C3 and bishop F4 and castle long, basically. So that's one major strategy. The other thing is you want to make it not inviting for the opponent to just castle and have a safe king. So moves like early, like G4, you commented how it likes openings with an early G4. Well, that's because once it plays G4, the opponent's always going to start wondering, should I really castle short, or is it too risky? It's basically a move designed to make castling short be less appealing. So that's often a good strategy. Of course, with queen odds, it's really hard to tell you what to do, because even seeing what Leela does, it's very hard to emulate it. It's primarily focused on not allowing even trades and trying to open up the king side so that you won't just castle short and be secure. Leela will sometimes go to close the position, which is only a strategy. Sometimes it's a strategy that's aimed at a draw, but not always. Sometimes even with closed position, Leela will win. So it partly depends on whether you're trying to win or just trying to draw. If you really want to win, you have to play a more open game.
I think this is what Hikaru did on his speedrun when playing against strong opponents like FIDE masters, IMs, giving up a queen for a piece. He closed down the position and he got the opponent into time trouble, and then that was his strategy to win in Blitz. Does Leela do similar things?
Well, Hikaru is playing 3-0 Blitz, remember, where he can win on time, whereas Leela, almost nobody, most people play it with an increment, so Leela can't win that way. It has to actually beat him on the board. So it's a little bit different because of that. That's another reason it's not quite fair to compare the results, because when Leela plays 3-0 as opposed to 3-2, the performance rating jump by another class.
Yeah, that's logical. By the way, you mentioned several top players who played against these bots, including Hikaru, Nepo, Fabi, Dubov, Wei Yi, Din Liren. So Hikaru played only the bullet match, right? So he didn't.
Right. So far, he said he would play a night odds. He said he was going to play a night odds match too. We'll see.
I wonder who did best among humans playing against the night odds bot.
Of the ones that played, of the top players, I think the best score was Ray Robson. He's like about number 40 something FIDE. He got. I mean, he didn't win any games either, but he had the highest draw percentage. That's all you can ask for, I guess. But there's one Russian grandmaster who's not in the top 50. This minute, I'm trying to remember his name. His handle on chess.com is Dropstone. Do you know what?
David Paravian.
Yeah, David Paravian. Yeah, he actually has the best score, I would say, at night odds. But he's played it hundreds of games. I mean, I lost it several hundred. I lost track how many. And it took him about 130 games before he got his first win. But once he got a win, he was able to win occasionally after that. So I think he has in Blitz, and then he was playing Blitz, and then he started playing 1+1, which I guess he calls slow bullet. 1+1 people can play a game. I mean, it's not like 1 minute without an increment. So he started doing that, and he even won a couple of those games out of hundreds. And he gets 10 or 15% draws, something like that. So I would say he has the best record at night odds.
That is something. Do you think that playing against these bots has good instructional value for chess improvement? For example, if I am a chess player who wants to become a better player, should I play those bots? And which ones should I play, and at which time control?
Well, what they do is they teach you how to win a one game. They won't teach you how to get a one game, but a lot of players aren't able to win even when they get a winning game. So, and that includes even some of the best in the world. So I would say everybody can benefit from it, but I wouldn't recommend that you only play the bots, because you will never learn how to get a one game. But it certainly should be part of your training, because it'll improve your technique, which is a very important part of chess skill. And as to what odds and what time limit, well, unfortunately, from almost everyone in the world, almost everyone needs queen odds now, basically. It's kind of shocking, but rook odds and knight odds are basically handicaps for grandmasters now. And or maybe if you're a strong IM or something, but you have to be a very, very strong player to have any chance, even with rook odds. So basically, we're talking about queen odds. And it depends. Even there, you have to be a decent player. I mean, if your rating starts with a 1, you're not going to do very well even with queen odds unless you play like maybe 2-hour-long games or something like that. But if you play anything that's at all fast and your rating starts with a 1, you're not going to do well at queen odds.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we do have with this Leela peace odd bot, we do have the option where you can actually get more than queen odds if you want, and of course the majority of players actually need more than queen odds. So there's actually a lot of games played there with queen and rook, or some people even go for queen and 2 rooks. I mean, and they sometimes lose. I mean, it's amazing, but it's just not easy. You know, I mean, for any given rating, there's some fair handicap, but you know, if you're 1200, it probably means queen and 2 rooks.
I also was thinking that in addition to what you said, you can learn how to defend and trick your opponent when you are down a piece by playing against such bots and trying to emulate their technique. Because now we all know that even grandmasters, even the best grandmasters, can be defeated down a piece. So theoretically, very many people just resign at the point when they lose a piece, for example, at grandmaster level, or even at lower levels. Would the popularity of these bots change that, you think?
So yeah, I have a personal story about that. About 4 years ago, I was playing in a tournament, and I was playing against a college age opponent who was rated higher than I was. He was just like 2,400 or something like that. In the opening, I fell into an opening trap, a very, very pretty one. It involved the queen sacrifice, but anyway, the result was I just lost a knight for a pawn. Nothing else to say about it. Just outright lost a knight for a pawn. And so, of course, I thought about maybe I should resign. But this was right after I just had been running those Komodo matches at night odds against the grandmasters where we scored 33%. So I was thinking, well, look, they often manage to draw, down a piece, and even later in the game, if they get 1 pawn for the piece, they often hold the ending. So I figured, well, look, at least I know it's possible. I don't think I can play as well as a computer, but I could try. So I decided to play it out. Little by little, my chances started to go up a little bit of saving the game. Ending with rook versus bishop. No pawns. No, sorry. I'm sorry. Rook and bishop versus rook and no pawns. I misspoke.
Okay.
So that ending is typically drawn, but not easily drawn. It's very easy to lose it. So we played, and we both made mistakes. You know, he would not play the optimum moves, but they were still good moves, and I would make mistakes, and he was making progress, and finally it got to the point where he made a move where no matter what I do, the next move it would be either checkmate or winning my rook. But I said 50 moves, draw. So I saved the draw just in time. So the answer is yes, you can learn to resist and not give up when you're down a piece. Yes, definitely.
That's a great story. Thank you for telling it. Also, one of the fascinating facts about you is the fact that you are one of the strongest non-Japanese shogi players in the world. And for those who don't know, shogi is a board game in Japan, which is kind of similar to chess. Also, we play it using similar mechanics, even though the rules are different and the pieces are a bit different. And I always wanted to learn to play shogi. I recently learned to play xiangxi, the Chinese chess, and really enjoyed it. So I wanted to ask you about your experience in shogi. Like, what did you find the most interesting?
You can have a draw, but it's like 1%. It's very rare. Because the way the game ends is very different. It's the pieces don't disappear from the game. It's like crazy house chess, where if you capture a piece, you get to use it yourself. So the result is that the game, there's no such thing as what we would call an end game in chess. But when they say an end game, they mean a race to checkmate. Each side is trying to checkmate the other, and somebody does it first. That appeals to me. The fact that you never sit there for hours and get a game where nobody ever even has a chance to win. That's the one thing I don't like about chess, that can happen. And it doesn't happen with shogi. So that was a big appeal to me. Now, see, when I learned it, I had to do it the hard way. I had to keep going to Japan because, that was long before the internet. Now you can become a strong shogi player without ever leaving your home. The situation is almost the same as chess. They have multiple servers, and there's even things where you can play Blitz games of shogi on your phone anytime you want to. Shogi Wars, it's called, and another one called Shogi Quest. And I mean, in theory, you could become the world's best player without ever leaving your home. Now, of course, nobody's ever done that, but it's possible. But I had to do it the hard way. I made 10 trips to Japan to study and learn, playing the best players I could get to play over there. I spent close to a year in total in Japan between all those trips. And from roughly 1980 to 2000, I was considered the best non-Japanese player in the world.
You mostly learned while on your trips, or did you have some materials that you studied at home as well? Because 1 year is not much.
Right. No, I didn't start to go to Japan until I was already probably the strongest player who wasn't living in Japan, non-Japanese player who was not living in Japan. I originally just learned from an American friend who already had learned. He taught me, and he was my only opponent for 2 years. And now, one of the things about shogi is that it, even more so than chess, it's conducive to odds play. In fact, that's part of the reason I'm so much into odds play in chess, is because it's a big part of shogi. So I learned shogi to a large extent from odds play. When I started playing my friend, he gave me a piece handicap, but after about a month I caught up with him, and then after a few more months I was too good, and I had to start giving him rook odds. So we played like that for a long time. Then I eventually started to try to meet some Japanese people who happened to be in America. I would occasionally meet somebody that was, a competent amateur. And then I heard about that they had a very good shogi club in Los Angeles of Japanese Americans who lived there. So I went out to Los Angeles and played at that club and got to, meet some seriously strong players. So I kept improving that way, and then I started. They had tournaments in England for Westerners, international championship. So I went to that in 1980 and 81, and both years I won it with a perfect score. So when I did that, I figured, well, okay, now I've done everything I can do without going to Japan. Now it's time to really go to Japan and learn from the pros, basically. Their ranking system is with Dan. I was ranked as a 2 Dan when I went to Japan, and they promoted me to 3 Dan the first year, and the next year I got promoted to 4 Dan, and then eventually I got promoted to 5 Dan, which is the highest that any Westerner has ever been.
So this is equivalent to a GM or something of that sort?
I wouldn't say GM. I mean, it's hard for a Westerner to be good at a game where every piece of literature and every video, everything is in Japanese. I'm talking about the last century. I'm not talking about now. So at that point, I would say it'd be more. It was about like an FM, maybe. That's probably a fair comparison. Yeah.
I see. Yes, of course, it should be very challenging. And do the skills transpose from chess? For example, some calculation skills, because the board is similar and some patterns should be similar, right?
Yes, and actually, I have a very compelling story on that. So in 1976, I stopped playing competitive chess. I started on a new career in the stock option business, and I couldn't do both. I mean, chess. I had been spending so much time on chess, but I was a master, but I never came close to an IM norm at that time. I guess you could say I was FM level. They didn't. I don't think they had the FM title yet, but that's about what I would say I was at that point. And then, so for 3 years, I didn't play any chess. I mean, I didn't even look at a chess article or anything because it was too addictive. It would have messed up my career. But I did learn shogi during that time. That was a 2-year period where I was playing my friend all the time. My only chess-related experience was playing shogi for all that time. So then in 1979, when my career was pretty well established and I didn't need to put in so many hours anymore, I said, okay, it's time to go back to chess. And I played, at first when I tried to play chess, like the first day, I could barely remember how to play. I remember I just played a game at the pool in Miami with some random guy who beat me. In fact, it turned out he was actually an expert, but still, that was a bit of a surprise. But I had to play a few games to get back to the feeling of what chess is. But once I did that, I started to have some pretty good results. I did take a 1-week training session with the grandmaster, Shamkovich, and we played a rapid match, and I managed to make an even score in a rapid match with him, which was very encouraging. And then I started to actually go to tournaments where I could try to make an IM norm. Every single time I went, not only did I make the norm, I made it with extra points. It wasn't even close. I immediately got the title in just a few weeks. And I attribute it to shogi. I think, my play was obviously a completely different class than what it had been in 1976. And the only plausible explanation is my involvement with shogi. I guess I got to give a little credit to 1 week training with Shamkovich, but how much can you learn in a week?
Yeah, this is a fascinating story. And I think I remember when Garry Kasparov went, I think, to Japan to play the top Japanese chess player, who also is a very strong, one of the top shogi players at the time. And they played a match. You probably have heard of it. Kasparov praised his attacking skills in chess and said that probably it's because of shogi that these guys' attacking skills are like 2600 level, even though his rating is like 2400 in chess. Because endgames, he lacks skills, probably because shogi doesn't have endgames that much.
It was Habu, who was basically the top shogi player for more than 20 years in Japan. But there's a story about another top shogi player, his main rival, Moriuchi, who was also, the world champion of shogi for several times. And he also got into chess, and he came to the U.S. somewhere around the year 2000, and played in the American Open tournament. Most people didn't know who he was. Most Americans, didn't know who he was. Of course, Japanese people knew, but most Americans just thought he was some random Japanese amateur, and because he was listed as unrated. But he started very well. He won a few games. He was doing well, but he finally got paired with a good player. Got paired with a friend of mine, an international master, Jack Peters. And Peters had no idea who he was, but he knew he had a good score, but he didn't, he didn't know more than that. So they played a game, and Moriuchi totally outplayed Peters, and finally he won a pawn, and he finally reached a rook and pawn ending that I think any reasonably strong player would consider to be an easy win. But he then started to play all kind of silly moves, and I mean, he didn't have a clue what he was doing, and he only drew, even though it was an easily won rook ending. So Peters was kind of shocked. I mean, he just played somebody that was playing like a grandmaster, and then he was playing like a beginner. And I mean, maybe I don't know, but maybe Peters thought somebody was using a computer and the computer broke down, or he was very suspicious. It didn't seem like a human, would be like that. So he asked Moriuchi. He said, how can a player of your strength play a rook and pawn ending this poorly? And Moriuchi said, well, I've never played a rook and pawn ending before. Eventually, Peters found out, the whole story, the explanation, but it was pretty funny, huh?
Yes, it's very funny because he always checkmated his opponents. They didn't get to end games. Yeah, this is spectacular. Okay, guys, if you think that I should try and learn shogi and make a video about it, please drop a comment below this episode. And if there are like at least 50 comments that say that I should do it, I will do it. Okay? That's a deal. Larry, thank you so much for your insights. It's been a fascinating conversation. At the end of the podcasts that I have a tradition. I play my guests in Blitz chess. Obviously, you said that you don't like playing fast time controls, but maybe some slower time control would suit you. Whatever you prefer, please tell me, and I would be honored to play.
I think I can play a decent game at maybe like 5+3, something like that.
All right. Interesting position. Some kind of Benoni structure now.
Yeah.
I wanted to sack an exchange, but decided it's too much.
Mhm.
Maybe I should have. Maybe I will. Am I trapping the rook?
There's a problem. Okay.
Should be winning. Take. I hope I won't play the endgame like this Japanese guy that you were talking about. Okay.
Okay, time to resign. I don't see the resign button, but okay, there.
Yeah, thank you for the game. It was very interesting. I wonder.
Yeah, I think it was. I think. Yeah, I think I was. I think I was doing okay after you sacked the exchange, but then I didn't see that my rook got trapped.
But I think I was also doing okay because 2 bishops plus a pawn for an exchange. My coach tells me this is enough to sack an exchange if if you get 2 bishops and the pawn. So the engine actually approves.
I even say that myself. I teach that same thing myself. Yeah. Let me look at the position where that happened. Let me go back to that point.
Yeah, the engine says it's a brilliant move and black is slightly better after the exchange sacrifice. Well, I wouldn't say it's brilliant, but apparently it's the top engine choice. So yeah, the bishops are strong.
Okay, I had to play bishop f4 instead of knight d2. That was my mistake.
Bishop f4 against the bishop
instead
d2,
of knight
right?
d2. At the point where I played knight d2, I should have played bishop f4. Then it was about even.
Which move? 19, right?
Move 19, yeah.
Yeah, it's very logical. You attack the pawn. I cannot take yours. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it was fun. Thanks a lot, and you've inspired me to play some more odds games and to try shogi. So thank you for that, Larry, and thank you for this conversation.
All right. Well, if you take up shogi, I hope you enjoy it, and feel free to ask me, anything about shogi if you need to.
Okay, I think I will. Thanks a lot. So, guys, don't forget to comment on this episode if you liked it. If you want me to try shogi, you need to write 50 comments. It's not that hard, so please do it, guys. Help promote this episode. And see you in the next one.